When Fire Emblem Three Houses was announced, the avid Fire Emblem fanbase was fairly divided. Many thought the way the developer Intelligent Systems chose to integrate life as a professor to be a cool innovation for the series, while others were worried this portion of the experience would detract from the tactical combat the series is known for. And yet, in a display of phenomenal talent, Intelligent Systems and Koei Tecmo have managed to deliver an experience that is as fun and varied as it is balanced, with series tropes sticking around and making major improvements while also being spiced up by the inclusion of several new mechanics. So it's no wonder then why Three Houses has taken the gaming world by storm since its release, as pundits and fans alike almost unanimously praise the title's execution. We here at VGR are no different in our level of love and admiration for the game, which is why we can so easily name the top 5 things to love most about Fire Emblem Three Houses. We'll also be keeping this video spoiler free, so if you're heading into the game with fresh eyes, don't worry. Number 1. Life as a Professor. When the professorial aspects of the game were unveiled, it was immediately clear that there was a ton of potential bubbling under the surface just waiting to burst through. Sure enough, on July 26, 2019, that potential showed its true form, and what a behemoth it is. As the newly appointed professor of the player's selected house, Byleth, the game's protagonist, must guide several students to victory not only in battle, but in their studies as well. This means planning lessons and executing tutoring sessions in each in-game month. Lesson planning includes the selection of your students' goals, which are the battle skills you would like them to develop as they learn in class. Want a Myrmidon that specializes in swords and authority, or a Cavalier with proficiencies in riding and lance skills? Then teach one. Granted, each student has their bonuses and debuffs in certain skills, but that only reinforces the notion that each student in each house is unique. Your students also may come to you with specific requests, goals that they would like to set for themselves. This is typically guided by who they are as a character, making each request fit into their own personal narrative. Of course, you can decline their request and instead maintain focus on your chosen skills for them, or even accept their request and change your mind later. The key aspect of this part of the game is its dynamic nature. This, of course, is reflective of a real classroom environment, as each student will excel when you teach them things pertaining to their interests. The way Three Houses has executed this portion of the game is near flawless, and it makes Byleth's educational efforts feel authentic. Number 2. The characters and their relationships. The characters in Fire Emblem games are notoriously varied and in-depth, as is necessary in a series centered around strong casts. Not only must these characters be enjoyable to interact with, but the game must do its best to make players care about those in their party on a deeper level if it wants to raise the stakes in combat. This is one thing Three Houses has done exceptionally well. Whatever has drawn you to your chosen house likely has to do with one or more characters within said house. Maybe Edelgard's view of the crest captivated you, or was it Dimitri's relationship with his house full of childhood friends? Could Claude have won you over with that inescapable charm? Whatever your reasons, it only gets layers deeper from there. The moment you've chosen a house and are thrown into the fray of life at the Officers' Academy, the story opens up in a major way, revealing more about each character than initially perceived. Learning how they view themselves and how their classmates see them is a definite draw, but it's their interactions as the game carries on that really shine through. As you do activities around the academy, you will build up a relationship with those you interact with, and if group activities such as mealtime or choir practice are selected, then you will get to see those relationships being built between other characters. Assisting one another in combat is another excellent way for characters to get closer, as you'll likely see hearts popping up above heads all throughout battle. As their bond deepens, they will gain support ranks, and this is where each character's true colors shine. Looking to crack the serious, stoic demeanor of one character? Or maybe you'd like to see someone come out of their shell a little bit more. Building support ranks and executing those dialogues will provide the opportunity to see a whole new aspect of your students. Let's set aside the mechanical benefits of support ranks for a moment to simply enjoy what these interactions have to offer. Some are heartwarming, others heartbreaking, but each is varied and special in their own right. Number 3. The student's role in the plot. As you go through the game as Byleth, you will naturally gain an attachment to the students you interact with. It's bound to happen, as each house has their fair share of funny, relatable, and downright adorable students. What was unexpected, at least on this presenter's end, was just how much the core story of Three Houses would revolve around these kids. The way their stories and the stories of their families are intertwined with that of the Church of Seiros and the Officers' Academy feels not only substantial, but completely organic. Once again, you can continue watching fearing no spoilers, but that won't stop me from singing this aspect of the game's praises. When the monthly missions given to Byleth by Archbishop Rhea started becoming more and more intrinsically tied to the students of my house, I was floored, and it's likely you'll react in the same way. The best part about this, though, besides character interactions directly emulating and revolving around these events, is the way the story evolves. It makes total sense. Nothing about what I've experienced so far has felt shoehorned or forced. Quite the opposite, actually. These events and occurrences have only made me reaffirmed in the notion that I picked the right house, knowing the story would be experienced in a completely different way if another choice had been made. While we can't say too much on this at the risk of spoiling someone else's experience, just know that the way Fire Emblem Three Houses handles its story is incredibly intimate and impeccably executed. Number 4. Combat looks and feels gorgeous. So the story is well written and the characters are enjoyable to interact with. These are all well and good, but no Fire Emblem title is a proper entry into the series without combat that feels both purposeful and engaging. It's quite pleasant to report then that Fire Emblem Three Houses absolutely kills it in this regard. Proper preparation is one of the most crucial aspects of Three Houses' frequent battles. Go into a fight with one less vulnerary than necessary or a near broken weapon and no backup, and things are sure to turn out for the worst. And when things take a bad turn in Fire Emblem, they get bad. This is of course assuming that you play in Classic mode, which offers players the most authentic Fire Emblem experience by enabling permadeath. Of course, casual mode can be enabled for those who can't handle the heat of such a weighty burden, and that's a perfectly acceptable way to enjoy the game too. But we'll continue forth as most Fire Emblem fans will be playing Three Houses in the true blue Classic mode. In addition to strategic planning and the meticulous placement of your units, players must be able to react on the fly. There are occasions where enemies will summon reinforcements, or the battlefield will be unexpectedly shrouded in a thick fog, penetrable only by use of a torch. These constant threats and shifting battle dynamics make for a combat system which keeps players on their toes and thinking smartly. This can be aided by the use of the danger radius feature, which shows where your students may be in danger in regards to the enemy's radius of attack. If things do come together smoothly though, then you're in for a stellar experience because combat in Three Houses is both visually and mechanically impressive. You'll find yourself cheering when a crit animation is triggered or when a character's crest gives them that extra attack power needed to clutch a crucial victory. Character animations for each class are smooth, and seeing your character execute your carefully planned maneuvers is a joy to behold, specifically for that reason. The Battalions feature is also a series first, allowing players to equip small squadrons of soldiers to accompany their students onto the battlefield. Battalions add yet another impressive feature with gambits, where primarily offensive maneuvers can be executed to turn the tide of battle by stifling enemies or assisting allies in a manner of ways. The squad of soldiers backing up your combatants lends to the aesthetic and feel of an actual full-fledged war as opposed to the single unit versus single unit combat present in every previous game. The mechanical systems at play are vast in quantity and function, and could stand to be featured in a full video of their own, but we want to highlight just how good combat in a full-fledged console release looks and feels. Number 5. A major step for the future of Fire Emblem. This series, which has only fairly recently found a major audience in the West, has had an interesting and illustrious history. Most pertinent to Three Houses, though, is the fact that the most recent title is the first home console release in a full decade, which is precisely why Three Houses is so crucial to the future of the series as a whole. If this game were to flop in any regard, if intelligence systems didn't deliver on the anticipation of this game's release, then it could all be for naught. 2012's Fire Emblem Awakening was meant to be a swan song of sorts for the series, a last hurrah for the decades-long franchise that Nintendo had lost faith in. But it was that game, that incredibly excellent, well-designed game, that gave the franchise a second chance by finding a strong audience in the West. Since then, 2016's Fire Emblem Fates was met with tepid reception for various reasons, and Fire Emblem was a series that once again had to prove itself. With the imminent death of the 3DS looming and New Horizons on the Switch prove itself, the series surely has. Three Houses' global success likely means several things for the franchise. Chief among them is the triumphant statement, "It will continue." While it will probably be years before we see another game, nobody seems to mind, as the most recent series entry has plenty of content for players to get endlessly lost in. It's impossible to tell what's next in store for Fire Emblem, as Three Houses itself was quite the surprise, but knowing that the series is now a flagship franchise for Nintendo has instilled a heap of confidence in the game's fanbase. Not only did Intelligent Systems manage to craft a brilliant title, but they did so with the help of renowned developer Koei Tecmo, meaning we could potentially see even more powerhouse collaborations going forward. The future looks quite bright for the series, as Three Houses has clearly paved the way for great things yet to come.